Thank you, Mr. President. My question is to the Minister for Communications, Senator Fifield. Can the minister update the Senate on the government's plans for comprehensive media reform?
The Minister for Communications, Senator Fifield.
Thanks, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Smith. I was very pleased on Saturday to announce the Turnbull government's comprehensive and holistic media reform package. It aims very deliberately to support the viability and the longevity of Australian media. And, Mr. President, I'm sure I speak on behalf of every colleague in this place when I say we might not always like what those in the media might write or print or broadcast or stream or post about any of us here, but all of us recognise the important role that the Australian media plays in underpinning our democracy. Mr. President, this is a package which is unabashedly pro-Australian media. It's pro-journalism, it's for Australian stories and it's for Australian voices. And notably, the package has the unanimous support of the Australian media industry. We're talking Nine, 7, 10, Win, Prime, Southern Cross Austereo, Fairfax, News Limited, Foxtel, Commercial Radio Australia, Free TV and Astra. And those, I think, who have worked in this area know that getting that degree of unanimity is something that is very rare indeed in this industry. And I commend those in the sector who have looked beyond their own legitimate organisational interests to the broader interests of the media sector. Mr. President, as colleagues would be aware, we are going to abolish broadcast licence fees, which are from a bygone era, put in their place a more modest spectrum charge. And the good news is that this provides the opportunity for a community dividend in the form of further restrictions on gambling advertising across all platforms, and we'll be aiming to have that in place by March next year.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Smith, supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can the minister inform the Senate how these reforms have been received by stakeholders and the industry?
Minister.
Thank you, Senator Smith. Mr. President, well, in one word, I can say they've been received well. And let me just cite a few instances. Seven West Media Chairman Kerry Stokes, AC, said, "I endorse the complete legislation package proposed by the government. I am pleased that the Turnbull government is backing the Australian media industry through these reforms." Foxtel CEO Peter Tonga said, "We welcome the fact that the government has announced a comprehensive package of reforms of media regulation. Foxtel calls on the opposition and crossbench senators to support the package in full." Free TV Chair Harold Mitchell said, "This package is crucial for Australian jobs and our ability to continue creating local programming that is watched by millions of Australians every day." Network 10 CEO Paul Anderson said of the 75% audience reach rule, given time is running out, let me just summarise what he said, Mr. President, by indicating he said it should go.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Smith, final supplementary question.
Noting as you have the unanimous support of the industry, can you advise the Senate of any alternative views?
Minister.
Thanks, Mr. President. And if I can just continue on what Mr. Anderson indicated in his remarks, he also, of course, said the 2 out of 3 rule should go, which leads me to what are the alternatives. Well, there isn't actually a great deal in the way of alternative policy in this area. What there is some reflexive negative approaches to what the government's putting forward. And I'm talking, of course, about the Australian Labor Party, who, when we put the 75% and 2 out of 3 legislation to the parliament, referred it off to Senate committee for many months. We then had the election. We introduced it again. They then referred it off to Senate committee for many months. They said it was piecemeal. What we're putting forward here is a very broad package. And guess what Labor say now, Mr. President? They say, what we're putting forward as a government is just housekeeping. What we're putting forward before apparently was piecemeal. This, which was comprehensive, they're now saying is housekeeping. I think it's time to put aside the arguments of the past, support Australian media.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering the questions expired.